You're watching Extras from the Extension on Eagle Community Television. This show is brought to you by Carico Implement.
Hi, I'm Linda Beech, the Ellis County Extension Agent for Family and Consumer Sciences, and this is Extras from Extension on Eagle Community TV. You know, we turn the calendar to November, and the holidays loom large on the horizon. As we think about those holiday feasts at Thanksgiving and Christmas time, it may mean that we're cooking for more people and cooking larger quantities of food than we might do in our everyday meals. And that can create a bit of problems. I'm here today to talk about some food safety rules when we're working with larger cuts of meat. This could be a large turkey, a big ham, a large roast, beef, pork, or lamb, something that's a large, solid chunk of meat that might be more than you're accustomed to dealing with. Well, if we're going to cook a large piece of frozen meat, first thing we've got to do is thaw it out. So, as we're thinking about that today, I've got a chicken here as my example, but envision that we're talking about a turkey or a ham or a large roast, because the principles are the same. Now, as we think about food safety rules for thawing, you know, the first thing I'm going to say is never thaw perishable food like meat at room temperature. That means on the counter or in the sink. We don't want to do that because it exposes the exterior of that piece of meat to warmer temperatures, and that can get up into the danger zone before the center of the meat or poultry is thawed. So we want to make sure that we thaw it properly. I can't tell you in 36 years with Extension how many hundreds of calls I've gotten from people who knew better and fully intended to put that piece of meat out for just a couple of hours and let it get started, and then put it in the refrigerator before they went to bed or before they went to work. And they discovered it hours later, completely thawed and at room temperature. And their calls were always questioning, what can I do about this? When they knew the answer was that temperature abused meat needs to be discarded. If I've gotten hundreds of calls, I imagine there are thousands of people who have done the same thing and didn't call the extension agent. Let's hope they discarded that tainted meat rather than cooked it instead. So the first thing we want to remember is do not thaw at room temperature. When we think about the food safety rules, they're what I call the thaw law. There are 4 safe ways that we can thaw larger pieces of meat, and we need to talk about each of those. Instead of thawing this at room temperature, the better option is to thaw it in the refrigerator so that it stays cold. So let's put this in the refrigerator. When that meat is thawing in the refrigerator, it's protected from being temperature abused, but it is going to take a long time. You need to allow about 24 hours for every 5 pounds of that piece of meat or poultry. So if we're talking about a 20 to 25 pound turkey, that could mean 5 days of thawing in your refrigerator. You better think about that on Saturday before Thanksgiving dinner on Thursday. And sometimes with large meals, we may not even have room to keep that in the refrigerator and take up all that space for that amount of time. So if you're not able to thaw the meat in the refrigerator, there's a faster way to do that. Let me show you how that works. A faster way to deal with thawing a frozen piece of meat or poultry is to use the cold water method. So we're going to fill a large pot, large enough to hold that piece of meat, and submerge it in cold water. Now I say the water needs to be cold because we want to keep the surface of that meat again in cool temperatures and protected from being temperature abused. So we want to just keep it in a big pot of water, and we're going to let it thaw in cold water. Now, one of the ways to do that is to just let the water trickle a little bit during the thawing process. And that ensures that a supply of cold water is continually replenished in that kettle while the piece of meat is thawing. But here in Northwest Kansas, that seems really wasteful, and I find people hesitant to do that. So instead, another option would be to turn the water off, let the meat thaw for 30 to 40 minutes, and then replace the water. You want to have it in cold water the entire time, and this speeds up the process immensely. It'll take about 30 minutes per pound. So rather than having to thaw a turkey all week before Thanksgiving in the refrigerator, you may have to spend all day the day before or day and a half before Thanksgiving to get it thawed. So that's a good, safe method. A third method that's permitted in the thaw law for thawing a large piece of meat is to thaw it in the microwave. Now, of course, you're going to have to check and make sure that that piece of meat that you want to thaw will actually fit in your microwave. And another caution is to make sure there's no metal, a clip on the bag or a metal piece that might hold the turkey legs together or something like that. The thaw law involving the microwave, though, is that you need to move directly on into the cooking process after you thaw in the microwave. You know how microwave thawing will heat up certain parts of a piece of meat or maybe the legs area on a turkey. And so since that's already moved up into the danger zone, it's important to continue right on and cook that. In other words, it's not safe to thaw this in the microwave one day, refrigerate it again, and then try to cook it a second day or afterwards. The fourth and final thaw law for thawing a large piece of meat is something that may not be practical when we're talking about really large pieces of holiday food items. But that means that the fourth law is thawing during the cooking process. So for example, think of frozen hamburger patties that go on the grill. They thaw and cook all in one operation. Or those chicken pieces that we put into the oven, same idea. It's possible to cook a piece of meat from frozen, but know that it's going to take at least 50% longer to accomplish that. And you have to think that if we're talking about a turkey, there are probably giblets in the center that you might have to remove at some point. So if you were going to do a turkey that had to roast for, say, 3 hours, now all of a sudden you're talking about 4.5 hours of cooking time. And the danger when we're thinking about roasting a large piece of meat from frozen is the chance that it may look done on the outside before it's actually done on the inside. What we have to use is a thermometer in that case to double check that food has reached a proper internal temperature. If we're talking about poultry, that's 165 degrees. If it's ham or a roast, 145 degrees means that it's done and safe to eat. So always have your thermometer handy, especially if you're roasting a larger piece of meat than you're accustomed to. We've talked about the 4 thaw laws, the 4 safe ways that we can thaw a large piece of meat for a holiday meal. If you need more information or you want to have the resources at your fingertips, the USDA does have a wonderful brochure on safe thawing of a holiday turkey. We've got these here at the Ellis County Extension Office, or you can find them online as well. Thank you for being with me today. I really appreciate our time together to talk about the food safety thaw laws as we approach those holiday feasts and family gatherings to come. Thanks. I'm Linda Beech, the Ellis County Extension Agent for Family and Consumer Sciences, and this has been Extras from Extension on Eagle Community TV.
You're watching Extras from the Extension on Eagle Community Television. This show is brought to you by Carico Implement.
Fall is here, and it's a great time to come out and visit Carico Implement in Hayes for all of your fall lawn care needs. We stock and sell a full line of John Deere riding lawn equipment, along with Honda walk-behind mowers and generators. We also offer a full lineup of Steel outdoor power products. If your project requires even more muscle, come check out the lineup of John Deere compacts, tractors, and skid loaders. And don't forget, we have the parts and services to keep you up and running for whatever your fall lawn care needs are. So come and visit Carrico Implement for a solution that fits.